Good morning, everyone. This is Paul Wong, or good evening or good afternoon to wherever you're at. Welcome to my part 3 of the teleseries, How to Dissolve Food Addictions with the Heart Wisdom Process. So before we get started, for anyone that's here, I would recommend that you turn off any distractions you might have with your phones or anything that might interrupt you. So if you are looking for help with food addictions, we're going to help you process what's behind your food addiction. And it's best not to get interrupted because as you're processing, we're getting into some deeper responses that are subconscious, and if you're in the middle of letting it go or processing it, and if there's a disruption, it might not be effective for you. So for the next hour, turn off your distractions and just be as present as possible. You'll be getting a workbook at the end, just like the other teleseries, with dealing with stress and anxiety. That's the first one, and then the second one was how to break repeated patterns. You'll also get a workbook for dealing with food addictions that actually summarizes it, and it has actually a very important and powerful roadmap for you to do your self-work. And if you need further help or assistance, then contact us, and then we can support you further. So we're going to learn to do how to get rid of food addictions with the Heart Wisdom process. And for those that don't know me, or if you're just joining us for the first time, I'm Paul Wong. I'm the author of the Heart Wisdom process, and I have been working with clients for the last decade. And this started out being my own journey to discover why I was sick, why I had my chronic health issues. And behind the chronic issues, I had just a lot of subconscious responses and programming. Of course, we all have our own programming, and we start to get our programming since birth, since we're pregnant, since even during pregnancy. Okay, so all the programming and conditioning that made you who you are today is what's also causing your problems or challenges. And today it's focused on the food addiction. Food addiction is the surface issue, the symptom, okay? And then we're going to get to what's behind that. So the Heart Wisdom process is a self-inquiry system and a healing system. The self-inquiry process started really becoming part of our system probably about 4 or 5 years ago, when I started traveling to India. And it's also after I had my practice of working with clients for a number of years. And then I was still stuck with some certain areas of my life, and I was still experiencing suffering. So it was through the self-inquiry that helped me go deeper into the psyche, into what causes me to be stuck. And so it's a lot about Eastern teachings about nature, how we should understand nature. Nature is how we relate to life, how we relate to people in our family, how we relate to people at work, how we relate to ourselves, and understanding each other's natures. So if we can understand nature, then we can start to resolve some of our issues. So the key here, when I'm doing these series, or if people are working with us, it's not a lot about just getting mental training or theory or technique. So if you are either you're looking for help for yourself or for help for your clients, it's to have an experience the work, like not just read. Like if you're using an example of swimming, you're not just going to read about swimming. You're actually going to get into the water to experience the water. So once you have the experience, you can see how this practice, these technique, this methodology works. And then you help yourself, help your clients. So here, we want people to have the experience of releasing the different types of programming. Now, we cover, like people that do extensive work with us can experience lots of different types of releases, but here it's just an hour, so we still want you just to have an experience of a release. You're actually going to experience a release of like what I call layers of programming. So in the case of food addiction, the surface issue is the food addiction. Okay, but as we peel away, you'll notice that there is some type of other stressor or belief or emotion, and then it goes deeper. Okay, so another very important key is that if you do this type of work, you'll experience physical body releases. These could be tears coming out. These could be emotions, forgotten memories, physical discomfort. So in any type of good healing work or holistic work, if you're experiencing detoxes, you're on the right track. So one thing I want to emphasize with people is that one thing I learned early on is the saying is that healing isn't always a feeling bettering. So the nature of this work is that as you are letting go and releasing, you're not always feeling good. It feels uncomfortable. So, but it's a temporary period of detoxing and releasing and letting that go. And then for people that are doing this work for a long time, you'll experience a lot of release over time and releasing different layers over time. And you become a completely different person. You'll experience just lots of transformation in different areas. So as I said to you earlier, okay, your own life, you start out at pregnancy, and then that's where you can start absorbing from all the conditioning of your parents, ancestors, and so on until the present day now. So your parents' experiences, their beliefs, their dramas, their traumas, okay, if they have experiences, decades ago in war or famine, whatever sufferings that they absorb, if that never get processed, then it also gets passed on to you because you hear the stories, you can actually feel all the sufferings of your ancestors that's within you. So that's why people hence they have genetic diseases, because all this programming and conditioning being passed on. The nature of this work is that you have an opportunity to break those generational patterns, the generational beliefs, the beliefs of being very negative, being just like some people, ethnic groups, they have programming of being victims for many generations. You have the opportunity to break that. And that's what I meant by the cultural and collective experiences of nations. Some nations have a lot of war and trauma, and they get passed on to the people. So this work, if you do the self-inquiry, you can break that. And how is this connected to food? Well, because all this stuff that's unconscious is causing you to feel this discomfort. And the modern day society, what they do is that they program and condition people just to go to stuff some food in their mouth to deal with the uncomfortable feelings. So if you do this work and you stay with the uncomfortable feelings, you can resolve it, and then it'll break those food addiction patterns or food cravings and so on. Okay, so we just covered this, that by doing this work, we are actually, you want to get to, as you peel away these layers, what I talk about, you can start getting to specific life experiences that has to get addressed. So you'll notice a release of these, what I call these inner wounds. And sometimes, just so that you know, I want to paint a bigger picture so that you can do work after the call with yourself or connect with us or attend the workshop at a later time. But then I'm pointing this out so that you can keep in mind that you have to do this work sooner or later. So that's, so for people that can't see my slide, I'm just going to read out what's on the slide so you can hear it. So you have to deal with any type of specific traumas you have, or your parents or ancestor, abuse or war or death, divorce, loss, any experiences with feeling your life is threatened, your survival is threatened, abuse or bullying. So you may have other experiences that are not on my list, but if you have like poverty or very negative, abusive, competitive, judgmental experiences where you had a very critical or narcissistic type of environment, alcoholism, addictions, any type of very negative environment, they will be back in your subconscious as like held as a wound, causing you to behave the way you are. So you want to keep this in mind, that you sooner or later will have to address some of these areas that cause you to have your suffering. Some people might have parts of their life that are very good, and then all of a sudden things went bad, and these can create traumas. So reflect on that, and then why do we want to reflect? Because that's self-inquiry. So if you see here, this summarizes the work that we do. The food addiction is what I call the surface programming, and then we get to deeper programming, and then the deepest programming. Deeper programming is that you start to become aware of beliefs that you're not even aware of. Beliefs are like issues. You start to say, hey, I don't feel safe, I don't feel loved. The deepest programming is sometimes the primordial responses, this reaction, this fear response, this childlike response of being in terror. That, or again, if you say, I don't remember having these experiences, well, that's because you either maybe forgotten them or your parents or ancestors have these experiences. So then they have to get processed. So I'm going to go to the demonstration now, and as I said before, you will experience body releases through like yawning, tiredness, tears may come out, physical pain symptoms. Some people may experience even symptoms or releases even after the call. And so if this is the case, then just be with it, apply and use the steps I gave you, and then continue doing the work, and then continue getting support if you would like to get the support. So we're going to start the technique, okay, the process. I'm just trying to make it super simple for everybody so that everybody can just apply it right away. So the technique I could say is really just 3 steps. I actually just updated it to make it like 2 steps. that's in the workbook to make it simpler. So if you have a food addiction, find the food that you have the addiction about. And, you want to make a list. You want to pick your food and then write down all your thoughts and feelings about that food. So it could be 10, 20 different thoughts you have for it. So in this case, I said you have a food addiction with chocolate, then your thought might be, chocolate is so good, I can't help myself, I can't stop, I have to eat the whole box, whatever it is that your thoughts, responses, and behaviors are related to the food that you're addicted to. So in this case, I said, chocolate is so good. So I would say the second step, try to put everything in the subject as I am the subject, the object is, it's good, it's so good. Okay, so just reformat it to say, I want to eat more chocolate. So put everything into the I format. Like I feel bad about eating chocolate. I can't help myself. So put all your thoughts and feelings into the I format. And so the next step would be to dissolve the object into the I, or dissolve these thoughts and feelings into the I. All right, into the right side of the heart. That's just the basic technique. So if you look at the picture, it's just like the right side of the heart is just basically the center if you're looking at yourself directly at your heart. So just dissolve that. You don't have to know physically exactly where the heart is. Just do it by intention. So set the intention to dissolve like whatever the first thought you have about chocolate, like I can't help myself, or whatever food that you're eating. Okay, and then just in silence, just say I, as you say, repeat I. Set the intention to dissolve that. Okay? Dissolve these thoughts into the I, or feelings. Like, I can't help myself. I have to eat more. Okay? So this is the basic technique. So as you're doing this, you might have more thoughts and feelings that will come up. Then you basically repeat the same process and do it for the next thought or feeling. If you have a physical sensation, do it for the physical sensations. Like I'm feeling uncomfortable when this is coming up. I feel like I'm losing control. I'm losing control. Who am I? Then you say I. As you do that, allow the discomfort to be dissolved into the I. The only thing you're doing is say I. Just put your focus and attention on just repeating I. In a gentle, soft way to allow it to dissolve. So what's happening is that you're connecting to the greater universal intelligence to take away these feelings, these thoughts, these discomforts. That's what you're doing. This is you're having like a dialogue. You're having a conversation with this intelligence to take away all these discomforts and thoughts and feelings. And then as you do that, then the next feeling comes up, next thought comes up, and then you're repeating that. So as I've been doing is that I have been just check my questions, question and answers here. If you guys have questions, go to the Q&A area and write down your questions, and then I can also address them. And also there is a for anyone that have a question or would like to be a demonstration subject, so you could see how I do this work, then just raise your hand and I'll unmute you and I'll walk you through the process, and then everybody else can see how this process works. So just click on the raise your hand, and then I'll unmute you. Hi, is this Dan?
This is Ellie. Yes.
Oh, Allie. Hi, Allie.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for choosing me. My thoughts are, I love bread, and I have been using food to punish myself. If I eat what I love, then I punish myself.
Can you speak a little bit up, because I think I couldn't hear you clearly. I don't think the rest of the people have heard you.
Okay, so when I eat bread,
Yes.
I use food as a means to punish myself. I enjoy it and overdo it, and then I've been using it as a means for punishment.
Okay, so this is good. So I'm just gonna. So as you're talking, if you do it to yourself and other people listening, I'm listening to the key words saying I'm using food to punish myself, and this would be one of your thoughts. So for yourself, for people who are listening at home, you make a list of your thoughts. Okay, and here I'm starting with the key thought of I'm using food to punish myself. So then I would ask Allie here, like when you think about this, what does it feel like from a 0 to 10? 0 is no stress, peacefulness. 10 is the most stress. What's the what is it for that?
It's an 8. I feel very emotional.
Okay. So then for everybody else, you're using the same process. Ask yourself, how do you feel about this? As you ask yourself, how do you feel about this? Write down these thoughts and feelings too, and then use the process to do the work on yourself. So I'm going to work with Allie here to help her release this, the stress behind it. So we're going to use a framework that I'll be going into the Heart Wisdom trainings coming up. One is tomorrow, and that's a 4-hour training, and then another one is coming up in Vegas on the 27th of August. So the framework is that you'll see what I do is I go through what I call the layers of the onion here. And you can actually use this framework. It's actually in my book, The Heart Wisdom Process, to help you. If you're unconscious of some of the thoughts and patterns that you might be holding behind your food addiction, then you can use this process to find out what's the next layer. And so the framework actually has what I call the nine types of suffering, and then it's if you're looking at the slide, I got this on the slide. It's grief, sadness, anger, worry, fear, not trusting, not safe, not love, not being able to let go. And these are what I call the most common ones. And if you can actually become aware of each of the different layers, like a combination lock, then the issue can go away fairly quickly. So for you, there's
I'm getting not enough. Not enough.
So you could just do not enough. And for anybody else on the call, if you have something similar or one of these, then just say, I'm not enough. Who am I? I. Yeah, so say that in silence to yourself into the right side of the heart and dissolve not enough. Okay?
Okay.
And then behind that, there's a layer of not feeling safe. Okay? So then you're just dissolving the layer of not feeling safe. and now there's some grief being released. So what I'm saying, the grief being released, is if I was doing this with, this is how I actually do it with a real client in a private session, was how we're doing with Allie right now, is that basically I just name them off based on the intuition I'm getting. And this could be trained for the practitioner too. So there's a fear of letting go, okay?
Yes.
Then there's not safe to let go. There's also not safe to feel loved.
Yes.
See, as I'm doing this, I'm going through the layers. As we keep doing this, say if this is a more private call, she might say, Ellie might say, oh, I remember being a child not feeling loved, they're not safe, or whatever it is for that person. So in a more public call, we don't have to go through the details, but in private calls, a client might tell me that they start to remember all these earlier life experiences. So these are the layers of the onion that's being peeled away.
Yes. I'm feeling emotional, very much so.
Yeah. So you can, if you don't know how to do the process, you can just do it just basically, I'm feeling emotional, who am I? Just like that. Whatever that's coming out of your mouth, do who am I, to dissolve the next layer, if I'm not here.
Okay.
So then there's not safe to let go again. So it might even sound repetitive. That's because layers are repetitive, but you have to do it in the sequence that the subconscious wants to release. So it's not safe. There's a fear of letting it go, and there's actually behind that there's some anger about letting it go. And behind the anger, it's because oftentimes anger, we have anger because we're trying to protect ourselves, and there's another layer of not feeling safe, and not trusting. Okay, so behind that, there's not trusting.
Yes.
So this is something that's not on the in my book, but it's in the workshops, which is say this to yourself, to the right side of the heart, to say who am I? But you're saying this with the intention to communicate to the subconscious. So not to get a mental answer, but just to communicate. Say, who am I if I can trust more? Just say that and just say in silence and feel whatever response is okay, without trying to get a mental answer. Okay? So everybody that's listening to the call, if you're going through the process, this is helping you, and then you can also say, who am I? To the right side of the heart, if I can trust more. And just feel it, and just feel the response, and whatever response is okay. So how do you feel now about your eating bread and then punishing yourself now?
Is the number scale, you mean?
Yes.
How do I feel about it?
Yes.
I feel that maybe a 4, but the emotions are really clearing. I feel a shift. I can feel a shift from you just talking about it, and then I worked a little bit with it, but that was big. That was big, and I could feel a shift. Yeah. Yeah,
that's
and
great.
I didn't realize the layers that you go back again to the same thing.
Yes, so it's important. Go ahead. Yes, it's important that that you have the experience of going through the layers, and this goes with any type of issues in life or other types of addictions. Why people have addictions is because they have unprocessed issues that needs to be processed, and then they had previously had no other way of processing other than eating food or watching TV or doing video games or alcohol or other types of extracurricular activities.
So does this actually address that, process it? Does this actually process it?
It's helping you process it. So I'm kind of giving some content and some content and context about how people even got to this point. And so if you look at the 4 now, what's the if you want to just share what type of just immediate feelings right now about the food or thoughts about the food, what is it now? because you said it feels like it started at 8, but now it feels like a 4.
What are the thoughts about it? I'm feeling that I'm getting to the root, and the root is in my stomach. It's like my gut, right? And so I have this gut feeling of what it really is all about.
Yes. Okay. So
yeah.
The gut here, there's the next layer. So we're going to keep going here. So it's like not safe to let go of control. Okay.
Okay.
It's like I'm afraid to let go of control. And then there's the next layer is it's not trusting. So is anybody else listening, if you are feeling similar things or your own thoughts and issues are coming up, just dissolve those into the right side of the heart. Just who am I? It's just saying I. It's the intention to talk to a greater intelligence, dissolving this for you. So it's not. So the next layer, it's not safe to trust. There's a fear of trusting.
I feel that in my heart.
Yeah. Again, now say this to your subconscious again. For everybody, same thing. Everybody else that's listening, who am I if I can trust more? Just say that to the right side of the heart and just feel whatever response without trying to get a mental answer. Who am I if I can trust more? So the direction what this work is that when we have suffering, the way in the Western countries, modern day society, is that we go into our mind. We don't want to be in our feelings anymore. So when we go into our mind, we get stuck in the mind. And then this work gets us to process to the heart so that we can, we're not just talking about the physical heart. The heart is much like a greater universal intelligence so that we are being reconnected back to this greater intelligence to process. Okay. Now, how does it feel now from a 0 to 10?
I see it too, but there's still a little twinge in my solar plexus, my stomach, but it has it and my heart too. But I feel it's subsided.
Okay, give me a number from a 0 to 10.
It's 3.
It's 3? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So before, when you were at 4, it felt like it was like in your stomach, or your gut. What does it feel like now?
It's in my heart now.
Okay. See, this is also, for everybody listening, you can witness that if you're doing the work, you could feel physical discomforts or sensations change as you move from one layer to the next layer to the next layer. So there's still a fear of letting it go, okay? So if you're also having a fear of letting it go, then you can just do, who am I? Just I, and dissolve that into the right side of the heart. And as you're doing that in silence, then allow we want to do this process as much as possible in silence, because silence is how we connect to the greater universal intelligence. Okay. And you could hear the yawning. If you're experiencing yawning or tears or something, that's a very good sign. In some cases, as people do this work, sometimes people may get tired. And if you get tired, unless it's just like you're at a stage of complete exhaustion, then of course go take a nap. But if you can, try not to go to sleep right away. Take a walk if possible, because you're actually, from the yogic sciences, you're letting these tamasic, tired and lethargic energies release out of your body. And then as you're letting that go, you're actually permanently letting go of these responses. But sometimes, a lot of times, if you feel a little bit tired, you go a little bit of pain and don't try to endure it a little bit longer, and you just try to avoid it, then you're not breaking the pattern, okay? So I want to encourage people to go an extra inch longer or a little bit more each time they encounter discomfort and be present with the discomfort. Of course, if it's unbearable and you need to do something to relieve it, then of course do that. So stretch a little bit more each day, a little bit more each day. Okay, where are you at now from a 0 to 10?
Almost 0. It's like it's moving out. It's like I feel lighter. I feel kind of joy. It's
Yes.
But there's still a twinge. It's like it's moving out.
Okay. We will, pull out the twinge. So this is more advanced practices that I'll cover in the workshops, and we can pull out the twinge and pull out the grief, and then when I'm saying grief and all these things, again, you can dissolve into the heart.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what I'll cover in the workshop as well, which is letting go of identity.
Oh, yeah.
Identity is a very important and powerful work, because our identity is basically our way of being that we had for a long time. And if we don't let go of our way of being, then it's just kind of like you could fix something and put something on the surface, but it's just kind of like, then identity is our way of being recreates that belief or recreates it in a different format. So
wow.
If you can do work on the identity level and let that go, then your whole way of being changes. So this is powerful transformation work if you can work on be able to let go of the identity. So here, we want to do that by saying this to the subconscious and say, who am I if I can let this go? And then just feel the response there. Okay, so now when you look at it again, how does that feel from a 0 to 10 now? Is there still anything there?
0. I feel like laughing.
Yes.
I feel like
this is very
oh
common.
Gosh.
Yeah, this is very common.
Is it?
Yeah, this is very common, because the reason why I say it's common is because there's a lot of good people with some misunderstandings, and because I think that there may be just we have what we call like a fast food society. Everybody just wants like a fast way to fix something. So people would give somebody a technique and then they would temporarily feel better. So if people want to think about it, there's a wound and you're putting layers and layers and layers on top of that. Other techniques could be like another layer, could be like another layer. But if we do it with this way that I'm recommending, then you're taking away the layers, getting to the wound, getting to the source of suffering, letting that go, and by natural default, the universal intelligence is joy, is bliss, is kindness, is compassion. We don't actually have to look at the mirror and say, I'm a good person, I'm a pretty person. By natural default is that you have all those positive attributes. It's not something you need to convince yourself to be, which is what I think a lot of self-help has done, is trying to convince you to be that way, which you don't need any convincing. You're automatically that way anyway. And so if you can do the work by peeling away the layers, and if you can get to the bottom, then by natural default, what you just experience is joy. So
with all that joy and open heart, there's something going on in my throat. It's like it's not safe to speak and tell people my new identity of who I am. So
if we do transformational work together, as we peel away this layer, you start to feel more joy. There's actually more joy and more love and more expression and more openness, and each layer has more. So the next layer it's like as you move this layer, there's another layer that will come up. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, very much so. Yes. Oh,
Okay.
that was fabulous.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, great. Well, thank you for volunteering, and then.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for choosing me.
Yes. So I'll put you back on mute again, and I'm gonna check to see if anybody else have any other questions.
Thank you.
Okay. I hope everybody can hear me now. I put myself on mute temporarily. So I wanted to do a general group clearing for everybody else on the call if you're dealing with some type of food addictions, or it could be other addictions as well. So I'm going to tune into the group and do it really quickly. So wherever you're at, just notice your sensations and your thoughts and feelings. Maybe you already made a list of the notes. So for the group here, to help you release your addictions, I think some other people talked about food addictions, coffee addictions, other types of habits that you may have. Okay, so just check yourself from a 0 to 10 where you're at, and we're going to start clearing the layers of the onion. So the first layer for the group here is that there is a layer of sadness. Okay, so when there's a layer of sadness, just by intention, who am I? So as you say I, clear out the sadness. There's a fear of letting it go. So we're clearing the layer about the fear of letting it go. There's not safe to trust. Not safe to let go. There's a fear of letting it go. Each time I'm talking about these layers, you want to say I. Who am I? I. To dissolve that. There's not safe to open up the heart. There's a fear of opening up the heart. And there's grief about opening of the heart. So we're releasing grief about opening the heart. Now I want everybody to say into the right side of the heart, who am I if I can trust more? And without trying to get a mental answer, and just feel whatever response that you have. There's a fear of letting it go. It's not safe to let go. It's like, if I let go, I don't know who I am. This is the identity. Okay. that it's not safe to love. There's a fear of opening your heart to love. And there's some more grief and sadness being released now. Now, just ask yourself and check, look at the food that you're addicted to. Notice how you feel. See if you still feel a pull to want some more of that. So we're still going to let go of some more grief. See, the food addiction is also about not wanting to deal with your feelings. So we wanted to let go of the layer of it's not safe to deal with my feelings. And then there's grief about that. Also, it's not safe to deal with the past. There's more grief about that. So I want you to just say, who am I if I can open up my heart more? And then so I could process the past. Process it once, process it and let go. So what I'm hoping that people, what they've learned from this is that this experience that you went through helps you to start opening the doors, that there's areas in your life that are not processed or not processed fully. Because you might even say, hey, I've done work like this before. But if you've done this type of work or something similar or worked on those type of areas before, but if your mind is still bringing attention to it, like by automatically thinking about those experiences or memories or pain, then you haven't fully processed it. But if you actually fully process it, it actually felt like there's like this inner peacefulness about the situation, about that person, about whatever the suffering may be. And there's not even like a need to avoid. Some people might say, oh, I worked on it, or I forgave that situation or that person. And then when we do further work, there's tears and, other things that come out. It's because they might have mentally said, I'm at peace, or mentally say, I've forgiven that situation, that person, but on the body level, on a subconscious, much deeper body level. So if people see the picture of the iceberg, there's a much deeper layers that have not been processed. So if the deeper layers haven't been processed, it's going to create stress for you, and then it's going to make you feel tension, because all the tension is held in the body level. Then you're going to start grabbing food or alcohol or whatever that you do to distract yourself. So you have to continue doing the work to process the deeper layers. I noticed that some people are joining late. If you are joining late, then you can watch the replay and get the workbook. The workbook pretty much summarizes the work that we did. It actually laid it out in a way that it's content and information and the techniques that you can use this probably for a long time. So something that everybody can have that could help you, give you some guidance. I think this work is to be shared for everybody. So if you find it to be helpful, please share it with your friends and family or anyone you care about if they're dealing with food addiction, so that they could get some help too. What I meant is that you don't necessarily have to get help from me. There's other people, but this process can help you open up doorways for self-discovery. And so, like I said, you'll get the workbook in your email if you're registered on the call, or for anybody else that are not on the call, if they go ahead and register, they could get the replay in the workbook. And then what I wanted just to mention is that tomorrow I have a 4-hour class for anybody that likes this work, wants to go further into it. It's at 9 a.m. Central Time, so I think this should be doable for even people in Europe. And then I have a 1-day class as part of the HypnoThoughts conference following the conference on Monday, August 27th in Vegas. So there's a link down there, Heart Wisdom Process teleseries offer. That's the link for more information. And then I would love to see some of you. And if you have a need for further assistance with food, some people might have addictions for just a long time. It could be other types of addictions and challenges in life. If you would like additional help, we have a free coaching and planning session with a master practitioner. So you get to experience the work deeper, and then we can lay out a plan for you to go deeper to do your own self-discovery work, which is very powerful and transformational for dealing with problems that you might have had for some people for decades. I would say that the promise of this work is that it will help you work to the layers, help your self-discovery. Just know that sometimes it may take several sessions to work through certain key issues. It's very effective, but it's not a miracle process that things will be resolved in 5 minutes. You'll still need to do work and patience and have the discover your own key insights in life. In the previous workbook, I talked about repeated patterns. Sometimes if you have major issues in life or major challenges, they will break if you are learning the key lessons in life. Like the previous lady that was on the call, she said that the next layer came up to be about throat. Okay, so some people with their food addictions, the next layer of issues that they might have to work through is maybe how they express their boundaries. If they can't express their boundaries, then they feel stressed. If you feel stressed, then your way of dealing with life, coping with stress, is to put more food in your mouth. So there are just so many different lessons and wisdom we have to gain before we actually can overcome maybe a relationship challenges or a wealth challenge or some other types of life challenge or chronic health challenge. So we have to learn a lot of different aspects of life because modern society doesn't necessarily help teach that. So this is the Heart Wisdom book. What I talked about is that I want to, from my time spent in India and my own observations of why people heal, is why I say to how to bring ancient wisdom back to modern day society. And so if anybody is drawn to learn further or help you work through any of this, then please join me tomorrow. Okay. Well, with that being said, I thank everybody for joining me on the call today. There will be future teleseries on different topics, applying the Heart Wisdom process. And if there's any questions, contact us, email us, talk to a master practitioner about anything that we can do for you. So have a happy Saturday and enjoy the enjoy a beautiful, heart-loving journey, because that's how it unfolded for me. Bye-bye, everybody.
The moderator has left the conference.